الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين، وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز العليم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله وأمين على وحيه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله، يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We come every Friday in this blessed day to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all that He has given us and to renew our commitment to Him and refresh our spirituality and our relationship with Him, and also pray to Him for all our needs. And always keep in mind that there is hardly anything that we can do to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enough for all that He has given us. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. And keep in mind always that you are completely dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all your needs. There is nobody on this earth that can cause you any harm or can give you any benefit except that something that Allah has prescribed for you. There is nobody who has any power of his own. All the power belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything in the universe belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whatever we have in our hands, that's things that Allah has trusted us or entrusted us to manage it. So we don't become owner, we are just manager, including your own body, your own wealth, your own everything. You are just managing it. You don't own it. Today, inshallah, we'll continue what we started last week. And I'm going to start with an introduction to remind you of something that we mentioned before, that I said that in this life, you have a number of titles. Each one of us has a number of titles, a number of jobs, a number of duties and responsibilities. So every title or job comes with duties and responsibilities. The job that you have from 9 to 5, that's important, but that's not the most important one. There are other jobs that are more critical and more important that you have to be aware of. The first title and job and duty and responsibility is the title that you carry as a Muslim. You should not take that lightly, and you should not take it for granted. To be a Muslim, that's a great honor, but it is also great responsibility. So that's a title that you have that comes with a lot of responsibilities. You have to be aware of it. And those responsibilities and roles are much bigger than just praying and fasting. If you were under the impression that being a Muslim means praying and fasting and abstaining from alcohol and fornication, and that's enough, you should revisit that, because that's a wrong understanding. Being a Muslim, it's a much bigger title and much bigger job than that. There is a mission that Allah has assigned for us as individuals and as a community. There is a huge responsibility. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appoints human being to be Khalifa or manager on this earth and assign them the task to manage it and develop it. That's huge. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigned to Muslim individuals and community to understand and fulfill His purpose, fahm wa infad muradillah. That's big job. Understanding what is it that Allah wants to happen on earth and fulfill it, do it to the best of your ability. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigned us the task to execute His plan. We have to understand that plan and execute it to the best of our ability. So bottom line, anything that Allah wants to happen on earth, not just in your own life, anything that Allah wants to happen on earth, that becomes your job and my job. To do it as individuals, each in his own circles, and as a community, together in the society at large. That's being a Muslim. These are the implications of being a Muslim. Allah wants justice to prevail on earth. Who's going to make it happen? You and I. Every Muslim has to make a contribution to make this world more just. Allah wants peace to prevail on earth. Allah wants people to be free, to be dignified. Allah wants poverty to be eradicated, diseases to be eradicated. Allah wants this world to be virtuous. All the moral vices should be restrained and resisted. Allah wants this world to be prosperous. And that becomes the job of each and every Muslim, again, as an individual and the community. And your job is not just to contribute, is to contribute your maximum, to maximize your contribution. So whatever, if you're giving some of your time, fi sabilillah, or some of your money, you're going to have to understand that you can and you should try to do more and challenge yourself to do more in contribution to the cause of Allah. Be generous. When it comes to contributing to the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be generous. And all the benefits is yours. Allah is in no need for this. The more you do, the more it's good for you in this life, even before the hereafter. And that's where the Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy al Munkar comes in, which is the great mission of believers, enjoining that which is good, forbidding that which is evil, maximizing the good in societies and minimizing the evil in society is the job of whom? It's the job of every Muslim individual and every Muslim community. That's what makes you special. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت الناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. That's what makes you special community. That's what brings you the help from Allah. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تنصروا الله ينصركم. Help and support from Allah is conditional. Until you do everything you can, don't count on it. إن تنصروا الله ينصركم. Again, Allah does not ask you to do more than what you can, but Allah asks you to do all that you can. Of course, being a Muslim, meaning you have to strive to be a role model. That's your responsibility. Why? Because you are a follower of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what is the most important characteristics of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He was a role model. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Whatever Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was for us, it's our job to be like towards people. لِيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ شَهِيدًا عَلَيْكُمْ وَتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a role model for us. We are, as followers of Muhammad, supposed to be role models for humanity and for people. Try to be the best ambassadors of Islam. As a Muslim, you have to understand that you are representing not yourself, you're representing a faith, and you're representing community and people, and you are representing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And people are going to make their impression about Allah, about your deen, about your community from your behavior. So you're going to have to feel that responsibility, that sense of responsibility. Even the brothers, we don't wear anything that is special, unlike sisters, which are known now to be Muslim, and they probably have bigger responsibility. But even you're going to have to feel that responsibility even if nobody knows. Why? Because we want to send first that exemplary behavior, and then people, when they know that we are Muslim, that will give them very good impression about our deen. So even if people don't know in the workplace or the neighborhood that you are a Muslim, you still have that responsibility to feel that you're representing a faith and you're representing community. Then you are a citizen. You are a citizen. That's also big responsibility and big title. More than just paying taxes or abiding by the law. Being a citizen from Islamic perspective carry a lot more than that. From Islamic perspective, the only option that is acceptable is to be faithful and engaged citizen, involved. Why? Because if you have a mission that is about making the society better society, how can you do that if you are not engaged? So civic engagement is at the heart of our mission of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar. There is no way you can do it without it. There is no way, if you are a disengaged person, there is no way you can have any impact on society. So basically, disengaged means you have abandoned your mission. And I don't exaggerate when I translate the mission of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar, I translate it into civic engagement. Because it cannot be done without it. ما لا يتم الواجب إلا به صار واجبا. If there is something, you have a duty, and there is some requirement to fulfill that duty. That requirement becomes a duty too. Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar is a duty. Cannot be fulfilled without civic engagement, so civic engagement becomes a duty. It's not optional, as many of us unfortunately think. And remember the hadith of the ship of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. People at the upper deck of the ship and people at the lower deck. By the way, the ship in this hadith, it's like the society. There are people in the lower deck, every time they need water, they go up and get their water. So they thought they're bothering people. So what did they decide? They say, why don't we just dig a hole and get our water without bothering people? It's an extreme example. Prophet ﷺ teaches by extreme example so that he doesn't have to tell you the rest. So people want to do something out of good intention. What did Rasul ﷺ said? Said if the people in the upper deck, they allow them to do it, everybody will sink. Now, translate that to society. If you are disengaged in the society, it's like the people who are on the upper deck who will say, doesn't matter, let them do it. It's not going to affect us. Crimes in the society is not going to affect us. Drugs is not going to affect us. All this kind, it's not going to affect. That's not true. If you do that, you become like the people in the upper deck of the ship who say, let them dig a hole, it's not going to affect us. Many Muslims think this way. Many Muslims think they can protect themselves and their families from societies. I don't know where this came from, but that has no roots in Islam. There is no such thing as isolate yourself to protect yourself. That's the first thing. You need to protect yourself and your family, but you have to go out and try to fix problems. That's the duty and the responsibility of Muslims, and that becomes religious duties and civic duties. From Islamic perspective, they merge together. If you are a good Muslim, you will find yourself faithful and engaged, good citizen, exemplary citizen. You are expected to try to become an exemplary Muslim and exemplary citizen, or you combine them together to be an exemplary human being. Someone who always strives for perfection. Someone who tries always to do the right thing. Someone who always tries to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And show the best, Allah, the best of what you are capable of. Of course, good citizen and good Muslim, they merge together to be good neighbors. They merge together to require that you try to excel in your job. Both religious duties and civic duties. Allah loves when you do something to perfect it. Whether you are at work, whether you are driving, whether you are at home, as a spouse, as a parent, as a neighbor, as an employee, as a manager, as a business owner, Allah wants you to perfect that job. Above and beyond the requirement. Try to perfect it and excel in your job. These are some fundamental titles. Again, these are more important than the job, our 9 to 5 job, even though that's important, but being a Muslim and being a citizen and try to be an exemplary Muslim and exemplary citizen, you will find yourself automatically doing good job and excelling in your career and in your job. The 2 jobs that I want to focus on that I touched upon last week, and I mentioned them before, are to be spouse and to be parents. These are very critical. Very critical jobs to be good spouse and to be a good parent. Now, some of you, we are at different stages in life. Some of you maybe are not married yet. Some of you will get married, they have young children. Some of you, they have older children. This can apply to you regardless of what stage you are in. You should try to be good spouse and good parent, and then work to help your child, your children, raise them to be good spouses and good parents. And even if you are older than that, still, you can still help and do it with your grandchildren. So nobody is exempt, or this will apply to everybody. Now, it is very unfortunate that we are still taking these things very lightly. And I'm going to explain why, what's the main reason. We're still in a Muslim culture, our marriage is very much haphazardly. Very much haphazardly. It's not systematic. People are getting married in a very haphazard way. And we are performing parenting also very haphazardly. Not systematic. And we have a lot of misconceptions. I'm going to mention some of them so that we can fix them. First of all, the standard misconception that we have, or universal, because this is a problem that we have everywhere, and it has to be really eliminated completely. Many of us think that we know everything, so we don't need to learn. Do we need to learn about our deen? No, I know. I don't need to. Say we have to learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, I know. You need to know to read, to be good spouse. No, I know how to do it. I don't need to do it. Good parents? No, I don't. I can't. I saw my parents doing it. I can't do it. I can learn on the job. This feeling of thinking, it's an illusion. Thinking that you are expert in everything and you already know everything, this is something that we have to resist it. This is a whisper from shaitan to prevent you from learning, and therefore to prevent you from improving. Because if you're not learning, you're not going to improve. There is no way you can improve without learning. So we have to resist this, because that's very deeply rooted and seated in our culture. And that's the reason why people are not reading about anything. They're not reading about deen, they're not reading about life, they're not reading about spousal relationship, they're not reading about parenting, because they think they know. And until now, in our culture, it's shameful to say, I don't know. I don't know why. We should be able to say, I'm sorry, my knowledge is limited in this area. That's okay. Go and learn more. There is nothing wrong with this. You know, in Muslim societies, physicians can prescribe medicine, useless medicine, order on medicine, because they cannot say, I don't know. Go to somebody else. Go to someone who is expert or specialist. Because unfortunately, I could not diagnose your problem. Nobody can say that, because it's shameful. And nobody is going to come back to that physician if he says, I don't know. Same thing for teachers and professors. Have you heard in a Muslim culture, professors say, I don't know? They don't. You just have to make you wrong, or look bad, or that your question is silly, or you are not smart, whatever. But they can't say, even though in advanced culture, that's very normal. Top professors, they have worldwide reputation. You ask them a question in a class, say, I'm sorry I didn't think about it. I will think about it and let you know next time. There is nothing wrong with this. So most of us did not learn about to be a good spouse, and that's why we're not doing a good job. And most of us did not learn about being good parent, and that's why we're not doing a good job. So it's not mystery. Because we did not learn. Why we didn't learn? Because we thought it's not important, or we thought we know already. وَمَا أُوتِيتُ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. You only have very small amount of knowledge. Until you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're learning. You should become a life learner, and no matter how much you know, there is always room to learn more. Learn more about your body, learn more about your health, learn more about your deen, learn more about Allah, learn more about family relationships, learn more about parenting, learn more about everything, career, finances, etc. That's the only way we can. And if this was not natural for us, let's try to force it on ourselves so that the next generation, it will be natural for them. Anything, any change that we want to instill or to make it happen, let's try to force it on ourselves so that it becomes natural for future generations, because they're going to see role models at home. The other problem that we have, especially with marriage, until now, a lot of us, or Muslims in general, in the back of our mind, marriage is a need. So people, they get married to fulfill a need. That's wrong. And that's bad. And that's probably one of the reasons why marriages are not working. It's much bigger than this. It's the biggest decision probably a person can take in his life. Or if your child is going to get married, that's probably the biggest decision that your child is going to take. And your job is to help make sure that that decision is done right. When people get married, meaning what? Meaning they are deciding to merge their lives together. Someone is going to share his life with somebody else. Sharing your feelings, sharing your thoughts, sharing your plans, sharing your resources, sharing everything in your life. To do what? To build one entity. Two people become one entity called family. Not people who are working together or living together, roommates. People who become one entity. There is one entity called family. Unfortunately, in many cases, that step was not done successfully. People are still closer to roommates than to family. Why? Because you don't find one master plan for the family. You don't find that cohesion or coherence in the family. Everybody is in a different world, especially with smart devices. Everybody is living in his own world, even though all of them are in the same house, in the same place. But everybody has his own life. Communication is poor, relationships are weak and superficial, you name it. Why? It starts from the marriage itself. And then the parenting, of course. Marriage and parenting. So we're going to have to appreciate the importance of these jobs, being a spouse and being a parent, and we have to try to fulfill them to the best of our abilities. And you know what? That's your biggest contribution to the deen and to the society and to yourself in front of before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's your biggest contribution if you succeed to build a successful family and raise good children and successful children, and then help those children go on to build happy and successful family. That's your biggest contribution to the society and to the deen. And that's the best translation of fulfilling your mission. Many families are failing to raise their children. And the failures, they come in different types at different levels. I'm exposed to so many of these cases. So many cases of Muslim families. Yes, we are conservative people and communities, so we don't talk about this, but someone in my position, I get exposed to a lot of this. There are a lot of huge problems in Muslim families. failure in spousal relationship and failure in parenting. It's just to put it under the rug, we don't talk about it, but it is there, and that doesn't solve anything. When I talk to some of these families, some of these parents, what do I hear all the time? One, most of them, they don't take responsibility for what happened. Always, as usual, finding excuses. Like the school, the TV, the phone, his friends. You keep hearing all these excuses all the time. So that's people, they try to disavow their responsibility. It's always blame it on something else. That's bad. Your child is your product. Make no mistake about it. It didn't work, you have only yourself to blame. These are challenges. School, friends, TV, phone, these are challenges that you're facing. But these are not excuses for failing. These makes your job hard, yes. Challenging, these are challenges that you have to deal with. What's the other misconception that we have to fix? And please listen carefully to this because I heard this from many. Wallahi, I'm working so hard. I'm working 2 jobs and all of this is for my child. Yet, as you see, it didn't work. The man is not spending time with the child. And he thinks by working harder and bringing more money, he's very sincere. He's doing it for family. It's a lot of sacrifice. You hear this from both parents, by the way. We're working so hard. We're making so much sacrifice. We're depriving ourselves from everything for our children. And yet, you see the product. Yes, you are sincere. Yes, you worked hard. Yes, you made a lot of sacrifices, but you did it the wrong way. And why you did it the wrong way? Because our thinking, if you remember from last time, when I distinguished between ri'aya and tarbiyah, rearing your child, taking care of their physical needs and school and etc., and building the personality of that child. We are always thinking about the first, not the second. So when I'm getting more money, buying more stuff for my child, I'm doing my job. Why? Because we don't realize that our job is not the ri'aya, it's not rearing only, it is tarbiyah. It is building, shaping that personality. And that's what we are going to elaborate, inshallah, starting from today. So, people are making a lot of sacrifice, people are working so hard. Most parents are very sincere, very dedicated, they are living for their children. And they deprive themselves from everything just for the sake of their children. But they do it the wrong way. They're focusing on the wrong task, which is taking care of the needs or the physical needs of their children, not raising that child and building that child. One thing that can help us fixing this and making the adjustments is to draw the analogy between raising a child and building a house. Raising a child and building a house. What do you do when you build a house? You go to an architect and you tell the architect your needs, and the architect come up with a design, and then there is a construction manager who's going to build that house. You're going to have with the construction plan so that you end up with that house. In this case, your child is the house. And you are the architect, and you are the construction manager, and you are the builder. You are everything to produce that child. Starting from the design itself, into the construction plan, into the executing the construction plan. That can help rectifying that your job is not just go and get more money to buy more stuff for your child. That's only a piece of your job. And then the other thing that people keep saying, why, and I have nothing else to do. My free time, I spend all my free time at home. And I immediately come up with my question is, you spend your free time at home doing what? Because if you are at home and you are busy with your laptop or your computer, with your phone, and your child is busy with his phone, you are not at home. I mean, you are at home physically. What is needed is quality time. How much quality time you are spending with your family and with your children, not how much time you are at home. Because you may be at home and you are in different world, and your child is at home, but he's in a different world. Sometimes you don't even know where he is or whom he's interacting with. So let's change that. Being at home, alhamdulillah, many of us or most of us don't waste time on anything outside. So we spend most of our free time at home, but we need quality time. 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of quality time with your child, better than 2 or 3 hours the way I just described. Because that's useless. You're not doing tarbiyah. When you are at home and you are busy with something and your children are busy with something else. You're not doing tarbiyah. So what is the first thing that we mentioned about tarbiyah that distinguishes tarbiyah? Again, raising a child, building a child, grooming a child, mentoring a child, teaching a child, and between ri'ayah, which is taking care of your child. Huge difference between the two. We said that the first and the most important job of yours is what? Is building bina al-qana'at. Building your child's beliefs, values, principles, characters, things that your child is going to live with. Who's going to build that? Not the school, not the masjid, not anybody else. It's you. And you're going to have to build it day in, day out. And then the understanding of the deen. Who's going to build it in your child? Of course, if you don't have it, then you cannot give it. And that tells you that everything I'm saying that you need to do to your child, make sure you realize that you have to do it first yourself. Because there is no way you can convince your child to do something that you are not doing. And there is no way to give your child something that you don't have. If your understanding of the deen is poor, you cannot give anything to your child. If your relationship with Allah is weak, if you are not very honest, your child is not going to be honest. Because children are very good observers. They don't talk when they are very little, but they notice. They notice what's going on. So, the relationship of your child with Allah, your responsibility. Your responsibility to raise a child who knows Allah and who has very good and strong relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The understanding of your child of the deen is your responsibility. Of life is your responsibility. So principles, values, character, all these understandings have to be there. Sometimes when it comes to deen and the relationship with Allah, we do it the wrong way. We don't focus on planting the roots so that we get the real fruits. We focus on the appearance. So where do we go? We go to get our children to pray. Even without knowing why they're praying, and just pray. And when your child is praying in front of you, you're happy. He's praying. And we go to some Quran. My child, alhamdulillah, has some surah. Great. That's not the deen. The prayer is a product. If you succeed to build a strong relationship with your child with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your child will be very happy praying. You don't have to be on his head. And you don't have to try to scare him. That if you don't pray, Allah will throw you in hellfire. You don't need to do that. If you succeed to get your child know Allah very well, your child will be happily praying. And will enjoy praying, not praying for you. Praying even if you're not around. But that job is not easy. That's why we look for shortcuts. So make sure you realize this and you fix it. This is the responsibilities. Building those values, honesty, integrity, compassion, patriotism, spirituality, all these values, all these principles, all these beliefs, understanding, it's your job to build them day in, day out. And if you fail, you have only yourself to blame. We have only ourselves to blame. Our children are our product. So forget about excuses. Forget about those misconceptions that I know how to do it. I don't need to learn. All of these have to be resisted. You have to learn and you have to do it right. and that's your biggest responsibility, and Allah will hold you accountable on how you performed that job, as Allah will hold you accountable on how you performed your mission as a Muslim. And you have to raise a mission-driven child. That mission of Islam that we have been talking about has to be instilled in our children, to raise a mission-driven generation and purpose-driven generation. People who have a mission in life and they have a purpose. What are their purpose should be the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maqasid of this deen. They have to understand them very well so that they can contribute to these goals of this deen and these overarching goals of this deen to the best of their ability. As you can see, it is much bigger job than we think. It's like being a Muslim, it's much bigger job than praying and fasting. And being a citizen, it's much bigger job and responsibility than just paying taxes and abiding by the law. وَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه. نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, you can say this is too much, but that's what it is. That's what you should realize when you decide to have children. That's what you should realize when you decide to get married. That's what it involves. These are huge tasks and very critical, and they have to be done right, and there is no room for error. Now, let's say that if we can't, if I don't have enough knowledge, what should I do? فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Nobody was born knowing everything. There are two ways you can learn: the books you read and the people you know. Seek mentor. Seek counseling. Go and read. I don't know, that's not an excuse. It's not an excuse in this life, it's not an excuse in the hereafter. So make sure you realize this, that if you don't know, this is too big, it is too big. It takes a village to raise a child. It's very serious business. Fortunately, in many societies, people are bearing children without any consideration of this. You end up with a family that is very poorly managed and have 5 or 6 children. So you're going to have to realize the responsibility. It's a big decision to get married, and it's a big decision then to have children. I'm going to just give you this example that can help bringing the picture closer. You know, if you have a garden and you are planting it and always monitoring what's going on and fixing here and watering here and adding fertilizer, that's what you're doing with your child. You can think of all these values and principles are things that you're going to instill and plant in your child. So when you are going back home, as you are thinking about buying things to your child, which is very good, to your children, also think about things that you need to instill in your child. You need your child to be compassionate. Think about ways to make this happen. You want your child to be honest. Think about ways to make this happen. And believe me, it's much simpler than we think. And if we are sincere and serious, Allah will guide us. If we are sincere and serious and we do our job, and we seek all the help that is there, reading, asking, seeking help and counseling and etc., Allah will guide our steps and we end up doing this job right. Have you seen an artist who is drawing, and every time he adds a piece, he goes back and see how it looks, trying to perfect it? That's what you're doing with your child. You want to produce something great, not just average. Because even our definition of success has to be revisited. Because nowadays a lot of us, we think of success if the child does not get into bad problems, drugs or alcohol, and then there is some prayer, and then manage to get the degree, we are successful. That has to be revisited. And we're going to talk, inshallah, more in the future if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the life and the chance on other things that you need to do to help your child realizing his full potential. And remember, and a fundamental concept in Islam called tazkiyah. And tazkiyah is defined as realizing full potential. You have to do tazkiyah to yourself to realize all the potential that Allah has given you. And you have to do tazkiyah to your children to help them realizing their full potential. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. And when it came to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his job description was what? وَالَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. He was a teacher and mentor, helping people to realize their full potential. That's the job of Prophet ﷺ towards us. That's our job towards everybody, starting with our family and our dependents. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا وتوفنا وانت راض عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها وخير أيامنا ومن نلقاك ومتعنا اللهم بالنظر لوجهك الكريم. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا صغارا وارحم موتانا وجميع موتى المسلمين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وأعنا على اجتنابه. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وطاعتك وحسن عبادتك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. صلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وأقم الصلاة.